Peace, family. Y'all know who it is. It's Bakari Lumumba, the progenitor of LumumbaSpeaks.com, back once again with another video. We're going to be discussing a rather serious, and I would even argue somber issue here in the Black community. The Mississippi Goon Squad has been sentenced, and I'm going to take a rather provocative position, and that is that the Goon Squad sentencing is not emblematic or representative of justice, right? So we're going to have a great show this evening. We're going to, of course, discuss this rather serious issue. If you're watching, we're doing a dual stream between, of course, Be Line Network and Lumumba Speaks. Make sure that you tap in. Once again, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe. We're going to be having a conversation regarding why the Mississippi Goon Squad, that's what they call themselves. So this isn't something where the media has labeled them this, but they have labeled them as such, themselves as such. They were sentenced, and we're going to discuss why this is, of course, not justice. The link is in the chat, family. Well, the link is in the description. So if you want to tap in, be on standby while I speak my 2 cents and you tap in and be part of the conversation, you absolutely can. But the link is in the description. And then, of course, we'll put the link in the chat a bit later. But we want to have a conversation about this. We know that extrajudicial violence is an issue that has plagued the African community in America for centuries, right? We know that white vigilantism is an issue that has plagued the African community in America for centuries. And so many people see this as an issue, a watershed moment. These officers have been held responsible. They've been brought to justice. They've been sentenced. They've been given what I like to say, football years. But I think we're going to unpack that, and we're going to look to do a deeper dive into why this is an issue that we need to address, why this is an issue that an issue of concern, and why, in my opinion, this issue of the Mississippi Goon Squad being sentenced, although they should have been sentenced, we're happy they were caught, is not an issue of justice for the African community in America. So with that being said, family, make sure you hit the subscribe and the like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe and the like button. Notification bell as well. The link is in the description. We really want to get you all's thoughts on this issue this evening as well. I know this is an issue that I think everyone of African descent has experienced in some way, shape, or form, if not personally, but a family member, a friend, a relative, so on and so forth, a loved one. So definitely want you all to tap in and be part of this conversation. But before we do, we have to go over the ground rules. And so very quickly, family, when we're having this conversation, you all know that diversity of thought is welcome. So it doesn't matter if you're on the right, you're on the left, or you're right down the middle. We want you to tap in and share your perspective. Number 2, no racial epithets of any kind are allowed. No epithets of any kind, in fact, are allowed. We believe that this is a space of Black empowerment, of Black power, and we know that the 3 ends, 1, 2, 3 ends of Black power are self-respect, self-defense, and of course, self-determination. So with that being stated, no racial epithets, no epithets of any kind, right? Number 3, facts over feelings. So if someone taps in, they provide a perspective that you do not agree with, you want to make sure that you do what? You attack the argument, not the person. So no ad hominem attacks. We want to attack the argument and not the person. And then last but not least, no fundamentally false statements. Ashe, Black power. No fundamentally false statements. And very quickly, we want you all to know that here, our mission is neither to exonerate or vilify, but simply to challenge conventional wisdom and re-examine what has previously been accepted as fact, right? So that's our goal here, family. Last but not least, I want to share with you all that today, today's Black History fact took place back in 1873. In 1873, the Spanish National Assembly abolished slavery in Puerto Rico. So we definitely want to give a shout out to our Afro-Puerto Rican brothers and sisters. I particularly think of one Arthur Schomburg, the bibliophile. If you are unaware, the New York Public Library's Center for African American Research is named the Schomburg Center, right? So Arthur Schomburg was an Afro-Puerto Rican bibliophile. He also was a writer for Marcus Garvey's Negro World newspaper. We know that the Negro World newspaper was the literary organ of, many would argue, the greatest Pan-Africanist organization the world has ever known. We're talking about the Universal Negro Improvement Association, African Communities League, UNIA, ACLU for short, founded August 1st, 1914 in Kingston, Jamaica by, of course, Marcus Mosiah Garvey and Amy Ashwood Garvey, right? So we definitely want to give them a shout out as well. But with that being said, some of you may be unaware of what took place with the Mississippi Goon Squad. So I'm going to play a video here and then we'll kind of get devil into the details in terms of my thoughts why I believe that this is not a case of true justice, and I get into what do I mean by true justice, right? Then you all could tap in and be part of the conversation. So I'm gonna share my screen here, play the video, and then we'll get things taken care of here. So give me 1 second. There we go.
In Mississippi, 2 more police officers were given lengthy sentences today for their role in a series of brutal attacks, including against 2 Black men. They're part of a group of former officers who are being sentenced this week after pleading guilty to horrifying charges that include torture and sexual assault. John Yang has more.
Amna, a federal judge in Mississippi, has just handed down the harshest sentence yet in a startling case of law enforcement misconduct. 40 years in prison for the 4th former deputy in the self-proclaimed Goon Squad in the Rankin County, Mississippi Sheriff's Department. A total of 6 former deputies have pleaded guilty. Federal prosecutors say that for nearly 2 decades, they barged into homes in the middle of the night, handcuffing and torturing occupants for information or confessions. The current charges stem from a January 2023 home invasion of the residence of Michael Jenkins and Eddie Parker. The officers repeatedly shocked them with tasers, sexually assaulted them with a sex toy, and shot Jenkins in the face, nearly killing him. Parker spoke to reporters after one of the sentencing hearings.
What's done already, man, can't be erased, man, can't be taken back. I relive this every day.
The years of brutal misconduct was documented by an investigation by Mississippi Today and the New York Times Local Investigations Fellowship. Brian Howe is an investigative reporter at Mississippi Today. He was part of this reporting team. Brian, the sort of the severity of this behavior and the fact that it went on so long really is eye-grabbing, sort of very startling. Tell us how this self-proclaimed Goon Squad came about. How did it get started? How big was it? How did they pick the people they targeted?
Thanks, Sean. Well, it's unclear how the Goon Squad was actually started, but we do know that this pattern of behavior involved a core group of deputies stretching back nearly 20 years. They chose their targets based on these people's alleged crimes. They mainly went after folks that they suspected of dealing or possessing methamphetamine or other drugs. Then after they found them, they would burst into their homes or pull them over while they were driving and begin these brutal interrogations that often involved anywhere from repeated tasings to waterboarding to burning, you name it.
I mean, this has been going on for some time, say 2 decades. How many other cases are there out there, do you think?
Well, we don't know how many cases there are out there, but we interviewed over 50 people who claimed they experienced or witnessed torture at the hands of Rankin County deputies. Of those, we were able to corroborate 17 torture incidents involving 20 victims dating back 18 years.
The sheriff is resisting calls to resign. How high up did knowledge about this go? How senior supervisors were aware of this?
You're right, John. The sheriff has resisted calls to resign and has claimed numerous times that he had no knowledge of his deputies' actions. But what we found were that some of the highest ranking deputies at the sheriff's department were involved and actively partaking in these torture incidents. And we spoke to multiple people who claimed they were tortured by deputies who said that they filed complaints with the department, which should have gone to the sheriff, and in some cases even reached out directly to him to notify him of his deputies' actions.
What does this say about the culture of the department?
Well, it says that there's potentially a deeply ingrained culture of violent misconduct at the Rankin County Sheriff's Department. This culture has actually been referenced several times in the sentencing hearings this week by some of the deputies themselves, who themselves acknowledged that they were indoctrinated into this culture and became a part of it as they went on at the Sheriff's Department.
The Rankin County is majority white. It sits right next to Jackson, which has one of the highest percentages of black to this.
We found that the majority of the alleged victims who were tortured by Goon Squad members were actually white, and we think that that's because we are looking at a majority white county. However, when people of color came forward and said that they were tortured, there was often a racial aspect to the torture. They were called racial slurs. They were told to go back to Jackson, which is a common phrase, referring to Jackson and how many people at the department and in Rankin County see the city as a source of crime and corruption.
Do you think this is going on in other counties in Mississippi?
It's hard to say. We do know that across Mississippi, sheriff's departments have very little to no oversight. Our team, Alyssa Daly and Jerry Mitchell, have uncovered other accusations of sexual assault by sheriffs at different departments. And so it's clear here that we have an issue of accountability with sheriffs generally in Mississippi.
You said this has been going on for 2 decades. Complaints went to the sheriff's department to no avail. How did this escape the notice of statewide officials, of federal officials?
That's a great question, John. I'd love to know that myself. We do know that a state investigation into the incident involving Michael Jenkins and Eddie Parker is sort of what initiated all of this in the first place. But as far as we know, so far, state and federal officials only recently became aware of the conduct at the Rankin County Sheriff's Department.
And the trials that have been going on, the sentencing has all been in federal court. Are any local county officials, the county prosecutor, looking into this?
Yes, all of the deputies who face sentencing in federal court this week will also face another round of state sentencing in the coming weeks.
Brian Howie of Mississippi Today, thank you very much.
Thanks, John. I appreciate it.
So you all was able to see that video, family, just in case some of you, were unaware, of course, of what took place, what transpired. So I'm gonna put the link in the chat, and if you're on Twitter watching, appreciate you watching us on X, formerly known as Twitter. I'll put the link in the comment below the video on X. So if you want to tap in as well, you can. So let's get right to it. Number one, when I read the article regarding their sentencing, they said that they entered into the home. So number one, there was a culture of violence, a culture of police brutality, right? First and foremost, what comes to mind as a violation of the 8th Amendment, cruel and unusual punishment, right? This is why they were charged federally. They're denying people's civil rights, right? Violating the Constitution. I also think of the Black Panther Party for self-defense, right? In the article that I read, some of the officers, all of the officers on the Goon Squad, were breaking into people's homes, right? Going into people's homes without a warrant, beating people, sexually assaulting people. There was some allegations, well, not even allegations, some things that these officers were doing that I don't even want to repeat, right? In terms of taking their genitalia out, forcing their genitalia on people, dry humping men, all types of stuff. There was one of them took a dildo and sexually assaulted a man, right? So this is a major issue that we're talking about here. This made me think of the Black Panther Party for self-defense. Right back in October 1966, will later become Dr. Huey P. Newton, and of course Bobby Seale put in work, and we know that there's Huey Newton is one of the esteemed ancestors now. May he rest in power, rest in Uhuru. The same thing when I read Huey P. Newton's book, and I have it behind me here, Revolutionary Suicide, family. If you haven't read this book, Revolutionary Suicide by Huey P. Newton, he discussed that one of the reasons that they created the Black Panther Party for self-defense was because these same issues were taking place on a diurnal basis in Oakland, California, in the Bay Area, right? So these are the issues that we're dealing with here. And quick note, I actually read this entire book, Huey P. Newton's memoir, Revolutionary Suicide, during Kwanzaa of 2009. Kwanzaa 2009, I read Revolutionary Suicide. Absolutely. So we definitely want to hold that down. Shout out to Dr. Huey P. Newton. So this is something, of course, to be cognizant of in terms of this issue is still taking place. But I am happy that the officers were caught. Took me back that this has been going on for 2 decades. So we know, and the sheriff says, oh, he wasn't aware. Bullshit. I believe 100% that he was aware. I was someone who served in law enforcement. When I came back from the military, I was in the National Guard. Many people may be aware that people in the National Guard or reserves oftentimes serve in the police force. I know that there's a culture of corruption. It's a culture of violence, and you better keep your mouth shut if you want to get promoted. So this is an issue that we know we have to deal with. But I think the major issue that we're looking at here is justice isn't those officers being caught. Justice isn't those officers receiving what I would call football sentences, football years, right? Some got 40 years, some got 10, 30, 25, etc., right? Justice for us as Africans living in America is gaining the power, the capacity, politically, socially, economically, and militarily, to prevent these things from ever taking place. Because this is an issue that we live with, irrespective of where we are in the world. African people face extrajudicial violence. We face white vigilantism. It doesn't matter if you're in Madagascar, if you're in Sudan, if you're in Chicago, San Diego, or Buenos Aires. This is an issue that we face, right? If you're in Amsterdam, if you're in Budapest, Japan, this is an issue that Black people face, right? So, Brother Bawana, I see you there. I'm gonna let you tap in momentarily. This is something I believe we have to get serious, right? We know politically a lot of people unfortunately seek political office, typically they say in America, for two reasons: to protect their money or to make money, right? We aren't seeing individuals truly tapping in and seeking to address these issues. I can recall maybe about 4 years ago, I wrote an article and I was calling out Biden, right? I called out the Biden administration. I said, listen, you know, we have all these issues taking place with extrajudicial violence. You're now the president. What are you going to do to address this issue? We need to have an executive order. And I actually reached out monthly to my local congressman, who was a woman, a Black woman, by the way. Never heard back from her. Right. So I think we have to apply pressure. As they say, you know, young folk nowadays say you need to apply pressure. We need to apply pressure. And then I think there's some things that we could do on our behalf. And Brother Barana, just give me 1 second before I get off my my soliloquy, right? In my soliloquy, or my monologue, as they say. The Nation of Islam has been around since 1930. Detroit, June 1930, I believe in Detroit is when they were founded. They've pushed separation for 94 years. We haven't seen it. And it may be time for us to put our rhetoric into action, right? We know the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, also known as Mormons. So many members of that church took umbrage with the Mormon church outlawing polygamy, sister wives. So they said, no, we're not going to end having sister wives. So guess what they did? They moved to southern Utah and northern Arizona, created their own municipalities. I believe that what we're going to have to do to ensure the safety of our people is create majority Black municipalities, townships, and cities, and then make sure that the officers, the individuals who are in the civil sector, so we're talking about the teachers, right? We're talking about the firemen and so on and so forth, police officers, are Black people. And if we can, we will have to create a culture that is Black-minded. I think these are my thoughts. But the link is in the chat, family. The link is also in the description. If you're watching on Twitter, I'll put the link in the comments so you can tap in as well. But my thoughts is justice is not them going to prison. Justice is when we gain the political, social, and economic and military capacity to prevent these things from ever happening again. Those are my thoughts, family. I want you all to tap in and let me know what you think. Brother Bawana, go right ahead.
No, I think that I wouldn't mind doing. First of all, let me ask you a question. Would you be interested in running for any political office? Because I think that you would possibly be a good candidate, a representative yourself. And so instead of trying to appeal to a representative, become that representative. I don't know. Would you be interested in something like that?
I appreciate the compliment, brother. I would be, but I think I have too many enemies to make that happen. No, I'm not saying that in a joking manner. When my enemies, I don't mean like actual enemies. I think they're just people who simply don't like me, and because they don't like me for whatever the reason, they would try to sabotage a campaign. For example, and I've shared this before on the channel. Excuse me. 14 years ago, I got into a fight. I used to play football, semi-professional football. Got into a fight, and so I had that conviction and misdemeanor assault on my record. I can imagine that there was someone who would say, well, we don't need to hire this guy because he's prone to violence and he would try to incite the community to violence. My response would be, well, I think that conviction shows that I would fight vigorously for my people and the rights of my constituents, right? So I could flip that, but I just think there are people that I unfortunately have had relationships with in the past who are hell-bent on trying to destroy my reputation.
That's interesting. Well, you know, I told my lady friend the other day that success has enemies. I told her that the other day. And if you were, because you are an outspoken person, I think you'll be able to handle that. because
I
no
would be
politician.
able to. I would.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
my thing, and I don't mean to cut you off, brother, but my thoughts are when you run a campaign, you want, typically people don't finance a campaign that they don't believe will be successful. And by success means you will win.
Okay.
So that's all I'm putting out there.
Okay, I'll leave it. I'll leave it.
But no, but I
and
agree with you 100%. That may be something that I do down the road. I'm going to be completely honest with you.
Yes, yes, yes. But
I'm gonna be completely honest.
in reference to this particular situation, I am curious to know what these guys were actually convicted of, because the it seems like it seems like the acts was of a sexual nature, right?
Yes.
Some of the acts were of a sexual nature. Now, I have not heard them being convicted of SA. None of them, I don't think, were convicted of SA. So I'm
Right.
asking why weren't any of them convicted of SA? That's a dynamic. I really don't understand that. Yeah, it's like when you get down to the details of it, these guys were obviously SA. So I don't know why that wasn't of an instance in terms of why they was convicted, and just abuse. I don't know. Who's the prosecuting attorney? Because that would have been an element of what they would have actually in fact done to these two gentlemen. So I don't know why that wasn't necessarily brought up. I have no clue about that.
Right. And
Maybe you
I'm
could explain it to
now,
me.
I'm not able to find what what they were actually convicted of after they. Let me see. It says they pled guilty. So let's see what they pled guilty to. Racist assault. 2 black men were brutalized. Defendants in this case tortured and inflicted unspeakable harm on the victims, egregiously violated the civil rights of citizens who they were supposed to protect. The officers assaulted them with a sex object roughly over a 90-minute period. The episode culminated with one deputy placing a gun in Jenkins' mouth and firing, which cut the crack. The officers did not give him medical attention, instead discussing a false cover-up story of their misconduct. The officers went, but it still isn't stating what they were convicted of. This is a good point. Yeah, still not saying what they were convicted of. So yeah, you make a good point there, brother.
Yeah, yeah, because that is to me, it's just a very curious kind of conviction, and also too, these officers, it seems to me that there's a deeper story, and maybe I'm looking into it too much, because it's like, why are these officers saying I mean, wow, who, even if I was racializing these groups of men, where does the sexual element come in? That's the question I have. Where does the sexual element of dildos and all these other things and penetrating these guys? It just seems very weird to me.
So
I
let me speak to that. So I don't know if you ever read the book. Let me go real quick. Let me get Mr. Sandman. He says it's the job of law enforcement to protect assets, not people. The first police officers were runaway slave catchers, and keep in mind our ancestors were property rights. So yes, you're talking about in the South, police officers first were created to capture runaway slaves. Absolutely. So I don't know if you've ever read the book Monster by the autobiography of LA gang member by Monster Cody.
long time ago.
Okay, so if you remember in that text, boy, you say, I know you. Hey, we here, right? He talked about in his autobiography that when they were in prison, even when they were in juvie, the COs, white COs, he said they were linebacker size COs, would do what? They would stomp on the groins of the black male inmates. Right? We also have read history of during the Holocaust of enslavement, even post enslavement, right? Black codes, Jim Crow, so on and so forth. When black men were lynched, when black women were lynched, they would do what? They would cut off the androgynous areas of the brothers and sisters. So we see that this is an issue that they've been this is something they've been engaging in for centuries.
Yes. See, when you say, and also there's a good book called, I think, The Delectable Negro, and then you had Frances Cress Welsing would probably, man, if she was alive, she would have psychologized us to death. But I'm seeing that back in the day where they used to do these kinds of things, where They used to take off the genitals of black men and keep it in jars. Some of them used to eat them. This seems a little bit different, though. This seems like it's almost like they are. It's like the nature is almost like you are trying. I don't want to go there because it's kind of an uncomfortable topic. But you're sodomizing, men, and it seems like this is a different sexual nature to me, Brother Lumumba. I don't know. It just seems a little bit slightly different than what went on back in the day, because now we bring it in dildos, and it's a weird thing, man. It's just very
Yeah,
weird.
I would agree that is weird. So almost like on some Puff Daddy shit, right? I mean,
It's strange, man. It's strange.
it's strange. It's strange. Absolutely. So listen, family, if you're watching, make sure you tap in. The link is in the chat. The link is in the description. We definitely want to hear what you all have to say. As you can see, you can use a pseudonym, and you do not have to cam up to be part of this conversation. But we're discussing why, in my opinion, the Mississippi Goon Squad sentencing is not justice. I believe justice is us gaining the political, social, economic, and military capacity to prevent these type of atrocities from even taking place. What do you say about that, Brother Bawana?
I agree with you. My only concern in terms of the all black scenario that you were suggesting earlier is we want black people in positions of authority who are fair in their assessment and analysis of the day-to-day, how they adjudicate certain things on a day-to-day basis, because I don't want black racist police officers. There are black folks who are racist again, who are anti-black.
Yes. So that's what I mentioned, that the goal is that they'll be black-minded as well, right? We don't want to have somebody like for menace to society, right? Talking about I hate, and don't be a menace while you drinking your juice in the hood, right? Talking about I hate black keys on the piano. I hate the back of Forrest Whitaker's neck. I hate the black ass Western Side. Now we don't need somebody like that doing policing in our community, but we know that if we ever are going to have a chance, more than likely that we will be treated humanely when we are engaged with law enforcement. That person more than likely would look like us and be a member of our own social ethnic group and community.
Absolutely, and that stems from top to bottom, from the judges to the prosecuting attorneys to the police officers on the street. So I think that would be a good scenario. There needs to be checks and balances in place, absolutely with people like yourself to make sure that these things are looked after carefully. But I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's a very, very good thing. At Mississippi, like you say, in Jacksonville, Mississippi, I think it's a majority black population, so they could start there. They could start there. Start there.
And they have. We know Chokwe Lumumba Sr. was elected, I believe, back in 2013, 2014. He passed away. He transitioned, to the realm of the ancestors. May he rest in the Hulu. And then, of course, his son ran. These were black men running as Pan-Africanists, right? And his son is now the mayor. So we can see that this was not just a flash in the pan type issue. And so they're looking to do some work that as you know, Chokwe Lumumba Sr. was from Detroit, and then of course came to Jackson, Mississippi as part of the Malcolm X grassroots movement. They wanted to, of course, put in work in the Magnolia State, in the capital of the Magnolia State. So a lot of work being done. Once again, family, if you're watching, make sure you hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit the thumbs up, make sure that you hit that notification bell, because we would definitely want to, and the link is in the chat, the link is in the description. We want you to tap in, share your thoughts on this issue in terms of why, in my opinion, the Mississippi Goon Squad sentencing is not justice. You do not have to agree with me. You want to put that out there. If you think it is justice, if you want to provide a counter argument, please do so. I'm going to actually tomorrow, I believe I'm going to do a reaction video to Candace Owens' Breakfast Club interview. So definitely want y'all to make sure y'all tune in and look out for that. Brother Bawana, go right ahead.
Well, I want to push back on some of what you call injustice, because I think that 40 years in a Mississippi jail is justice. I think that's a very long time in a Mississippi correctional institution. I think that person who was convicted for 40 years, I think that they was held to a higher standard, that of a former police officer who was committing these kinds of acts. And I think that a 40-year sentence is sufficient. In terms of the 10-year and I think some of them was 10 years, and I think maybe 20 years. I think that that's not enough. I think that the 40-year um, um, time sentence is a sufficient one. I would say that's sufficient.
Well, and so let me clean that up a little bit. I believe it's accountability, right? But when I think of justice, I think of us actually being able to liberate ourselves from the ongoing ma'afa that we're facing as a people. To me, in my
It's a different model. It's a different model.
Yeah,
it's a different
model. That's what justice looks like. When we are
okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so how would you have adjudicated this particular situation? How would you go to trial and understanding what the facts of this particular case is? What would you have done in sentencing these police officers?
Life across the board. And I'm going to tell you
everyone
why.
Gets the same sentence?
Yes, and I'm going to tell you why. It's a thing called so we all heard of felony murder, right? If you're committing a felony with someone and someone dies, you're charged with that murder. Well, this is the situation. In many states, if you commit a felony, you strong arm someone, you sexually assault someone, right? That in itself could get you life, right? Then you have to think about the fact that they violated their civil rights, but you can argue that they were held hostage. So that's kidnapping. And from every state I've gone to, if you commit a felony of the first degree and you sexually assault someone and you engage in kidnapping, you're going to get life.
That's a fair statement. That's so I'm breaking it. I'm breaking it.
I didn't come to that conclusion on a sentence haphazardly. That isn't me just throwing that out there. Like, no, the crime that they committed, right, in my opinion, constitutes life in prison. Not only did you shoot the man in the mouth, in his mouth, which is what not only felonious assault is also attempted murder, right? You held them against their will. They couldn't fight back because they were kidnapped. Because if they would have fought back, you would have killed them. And then said what? Then we talk about what? Criminal tools, conspiracy, because they planted evidence, right? Then they came up with a story to lie about what happens, which is RICO. They should have got life. They should have received life in prison. One of them got 10 years.
So when you say life, because for 30 years is life, though, Brother Lumumba.
I'm sorry.
So 40,
I'm sorry. Life without
parole. Okay. All right. I understand that argument. I understand that argument.
And I'm not, like I said, I'm not just throwing that out there. P-Funk 100, appreciate you. Hope you can tap in and be part of the conversation. I'm not just throwing that out there. When you look at anybody else, right? If you, or anyone who's watching would have held someone against their will, put a gun in their mouth, shot them, right? Let them lay in the pool of their own blood, then sexually assault the person, we'll be looking at football years. We're talking about Wilt Chamberlain, 100 points, 50-some rebounds.
It's a legitimate argument. And the fact that, because I'm looking at it as not all of them actually shot the person. Only one of them actively shot another person in his mouth.
But
so should he? Well, you say felony murder, all in. You're all in. All of it.
if you are part of the crime, hey, it's all fruit of the poisonous tree.
There's all in. It's all in. Yeah. I understand.
It's like if we break into someone's house. It's like if we both break into someone's house, right? And we hold a person against their will, but only you sexually assault them. Well, I'm gonna be charged with that just along with you because I was an assessor.
Absolutely.
I was an accountant.
Absolutely. No, I hear that. Well, it's up to the prosecutor, and I think that the people of it's done now, but the people of Mississippi should have gotten on the prosecutor when they brought those charges against those police officers. Because it's not
where was the RICO charge? Where was the kidnapping? Where was the attempted murder? So this is the article I wrote back in 2020 for my hometown newspaper. Right, I look dashing, don't I? But in here I talked about that. I'm trying to get to it because I called for, and I said it. However, I say that there must be a change. Change must not come in an attempt to win the hearts and minds of American people, but through legislation that finally affords African Americans equal protection under the law. Such legislation should come via a presidential executive order known as equal protection and policing to provide federal oversight and accountability to law enforcement in America. This executive order will mandate that all fatal officer-involved shootings and assaults of unarmed civilians are investigated and prosecuted at the federal level with a mandatory minimum sentence of 25 years to life upon conviction. Right, and so I make that argument because people who are tough on crime, they argue that we have to be tough on crime, and to do so, we got to have mandatory minimums. Well, we need a mandatory minimum here. And this isn't the first time that something like this has happened in Mississippi. I could think back to the time where President Kennedy was in office, and of course, the sheriff's department was involved in political violence to prevent Black people, Africans in America living in the Mississippi Delta for registering to vote. They were charged, convicted, and many of them spent 10 years in federal prison. So I think we need to have mandatory minimums. I really do. So, Mr. Sandman, I see your comment. We cannot be biased and or emotional when administering judicial punishment. We have to follow the rule of law to the AT. Tap in and be part of the conversation because, as I stated, I wasn't being biased or emotional, right? Everything I stated, if anyone else would have engaged in a criminal conspiracy, would have shot someone in the face, would have sexually assaulted someone and kidnapped someone, holding them against their will, at the very least, that's at least starts with an A. Because you have kidnapping and then you have abduction. You're going to get life.
I have a concern, though. I have a concern because you are right. On kidnapping alone, someone could get life, by the way.
Yeah.
On kidnapping alone. But I am concerned about the mandatory minimum because in reference to no, hear me out. But because in reference to kidnapping, you are a father, and familial matters, sometimes, a father might take away the kids. Take away the kids. I don't like how this house looks. You're dealing crack. You're having undesirables around my children. Let me take my children. At that time, you may not have the right to have so-called custody over the children.
So if I could interject, because I know this, because being a father, you can remove a minor from any situation by force.
That the law in your state?
Yeah, in my state you can. In fact, up until they're 18, you can prevent them from leaving. By law, you can say you ain't going nowhere and block the doorway. By law, if they're a minor. Now, once they turn 18, someone's trying to leave your home, you block the doorway, it's a misdemeanor to the 4th degree in the state of Ohio, according to the Ohio Revised Code. It's unlawful restraint. So I'm stating this because I know the law. Like, if my children, I say, we leaving now, I have a legal right. I mean, I've never had to do this, but if I had to, I had a legal right to say, grab my child, put him in the car, say, let's go.
What if the mother had something to say about it?
Well, then that's something we would go to court about. But, I've had situations where the police are like, hey, he's not breaking the law. There's nothing we can do to help you. Like, if you have an issue with this, you could take him in the family court, domestic relations court, tell the judge you think he's doing something that is untoward with you all's child, but it's not a crime. Okay,
because I'm thinking there are scenarios, maybe not like yourself, but there are scenarios where someone may feel, well, this person came to my house and took my kid out of a house, and I don't know where the child is. So, I feel like it's a form of kidnapping. I want this person brought up on charges, even though that might be the father of the child.
You can only do that with your child, not somebody else's.
Yes. So I'm saying that if both of you guys are parents, y'all are just not together.
Okay.
Y'all are just not together. And the father comes in, the rightful biological father comes in and says, I don't like how the situation is here. You say in your state, you have the ability to do that. I'm saying that that's not consistent across the board in the United States.
You're right about that. You're right about that.
Yeah. Now, so
what I couldn't do is just go and grab my child on the time that the child's supposed to be with the mom.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
But that's what I'm talking about. You can't do that. Now, but my son was in a crack house or somewhere engaging in criminal activity, or they were in proximity to criminal activity, I could just go and say, get you behind the car, you're leaving out. But I cannot legally go and extract my child from the home in which the child is legally supposed to be with the other parent, unless the child is in danger.
And danger, but Brother Lumumba, in your mind, danger is a very subjective word, especially when it comes to parents.
Yeah, I know, but
So-
and let me say this, and I always think, because I think like I have to think rationally about these type of things, because like once again, if you make a bad decision, you could be ensnared by the carceral state. Is that you always have to think danger in terms of what a reasonable, but the court argues what would a reasonable person believe is danger.
At the time, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So it can't be like, well, because she was raising his voice at him. That's not danger. It can't be because the child got in trouble and she gave him a whooping. That's not danger. Right? It would have to be something like, oh, there's a person in the house who was convicted of sexually abusing children.
Yes,
Right.
that's fine. That's a fine statement. But you, as a father, do not want your child to be around wild ass Negroes. And if, let's say, the mother has taken up a relationship with a wild ass Negro,
Yeah.
and you don't want your child around that wild ass Negro, I am going to the house, and I don't care what she has to say, even though it's her time, and I'm gonna extract my child from that situation. All of a sudden, I'm charged with a maximum minimum of 25 years for kidnapping. What do?
And this is what you do. This is why I tell people you can file a ex parte restraining order. You can file a motion with the court for an immediate ex parte, a motion for immediate change of custody. And
How rational of you right now.
No. I can say this because I've actually done it before. That's why I can say this. So I have to be rational in the moment, because I know one bad decision and everything could be gone.
That's fine. That's
So
fine.
like literally, this is something I've done in real life. And when you go to court, you have to have your ducks in a row.
That's fine. That's fine. But you would admit that that is a very emotive situation, and all the brothers are not rationally minded like that. So now I'm getting a 20. Now I'm getting a 25 minimum sentence because I have love for my daughter. Yeah. So it's like I would want there to be a degree of discretion for that mandatory minimum. I would want discretion.
I understand. Raw, vital, vegetarian. Greetings to all. Appreciate you, sister. Hope you can tap in and be part of the conversation. The link is in the chat. The link is also in the description. You're watching Lumumba Speaks and Be Quiet Network here on YouTube. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the notification bell. Smash the like button and tap in and be part of the conversation. So I understand that, but you have to be rational. You have to be. There's been a number of situations with my children, and every time I respond rationally. Like I know what to say, what not to say, what to do, what not to do. Like literally.
No, brother.
I remember there was a time where I was kind of going over a hypothetical, like what you mentioned, and I was talking to my son and my daughter, and I said, and I actually made a evocative statement to get a If you see how my son would respond, my son and daughter. And so I was like, yeah, I would go in there and just shoot the place up. Of course, I wouldn't do that, but I was just saying that to see how my son would respond. He'd be like, no, you can't do that because then you'll be in jail. And how are you going to protect us? I said, exactly. And I would just wanted to see where my son's level of rationale and intellect was at. And it's probably when he was like 8. So we have to develop the capacity to think rationally, even in highly emotional situations, highly charged situations. Because if not, a 5-minute decision could cost us 20 years of our life.
I agree with that 100%. And the reason, but however, and this is a big however, you were raised in a house. Well, this is gonna let's go there. We have to go there. You were raised in a home with a male inside that home. So to some degree, males, men reason what we reason things out. And you were raised in a house where you were not the biggest gorilla in the house, so you had to temper.
Facts.
Right.
So you had to. So here's the thing. There was a time, because I'm the baby, I was the smallest. Period. right? And then when of course, I hit puberty. I'm bigger than my mom. I'm bigger than my sister, but I'm still not bigger than my father or my brother.
So it causes you. It causes you to temper your emotions
Yep,
well.
I
You
knew,
learn,
I understood. If I say or do the wrong thing, my
right,
brother was gonna get me, and my dad
right.
was gonna get me.
Happened to me too. Happened to me too.
Literally,
Wasn't the biggest girl in the house.
this is a true story. When I was 14, I caught myself smoking cigarettes. So we walking home from school with a friend of ours, and he's smoking. I like, hey, let me smoke. My brother like, man, you don't need to be doing that. Whatever. I'm gonna do what I want. You can't tell me what to do. I pass it, puff, puff, pass. My brother say, okay, all right. We wait till we get in the house. Get in the house. My dad is gone. My mom ain't there yet. Coming off from work. They both hadn't gotten off of work. My brother picked me up, threw me, and I all the way across the living room. I hit the back wall, fell down, and got up and said, I don't want to smoke cigarettes anymore. True story.
You had an epiphany.
Yeah, I had an epiphany. You know what? You're right. I don't want to smoke. He said, I told you wasn't going to smoke no more.
Yes. So
you're right about when you are in a situation, and of course maybe we shouldn't use animal analogies because we've always been compared to animals and animals. But when you are the biggest guy in the room,
that's fine.
In the room, you learn to temper.
Yeah, you learn to temper your emotion. Yes, because now you're calculating. If I do this, this will happen, right? So, however, many of our homes, you would agree, are led by females. Okay, we are raised in houses with females.
Mm-hmm.
So that emotional thing that we have, well, if it's like your body is big, your mother is not necessarily going to challenge you. So you learn that I could rant and rave, and there'll be no recourse. I wouldn't suffer the consequences of ranting and raving and throwing a hissy fit. It's like, so now that person becomes an adult and has children, right? So how does that person temper their emotions when they see something occurring and then they fly off at the handle? It's like, man, I don't know, man. I feel like we're getting set up.
It becomes learned behavior. It becomes learned behavior. Now, I tell you, I remember being 19 years old, 19. I'm at my parents' house. I got my homeboy with me, my best friend's little brother, so my little brother, right? And we in the house watching some music videos. My mom coming, and we talking. My mom come in the room, and I'm using some foul language. My mom like, what you say? I'm like, you heard me, without even looking at him. My homeboy looked at me like, what the fuck is wrong with you? My mom smacked the shit out of me. Right? So, but part of it was I knew not to, and I got up, like, come on, but let's go up to the park. But I knew not to try my mom just for my dad being present.
Oh, so my mother just used to say, wait till your dad gets home. That's really it. Yeah.
When I was younger, yeah. But when I was 19 and I'm 6 foot tall, and I'll be honest with you, what I said to my mother was extremely disrespectful. Like you don't say to your mom, you heard me.
Sure.
Right? So she said, I ain't about to call your dad out the kitchen. I'm gonna handle this myself. Right? And she got it. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where I agree with you 100%. People can say it's sexist, but it's a reality, right? And what happens typically is with young men, they realize, hey, I'm bigger and stronger than my mother. I'm bigger and stronger than my sisters. So I could go throughout the house unchecked.
Right. And they take that sentiment into real life situations, and unfortunately, they get caught up.
Yeah, and I knew growing up, I wasn't the biggest. I was the smallest male in the home, and so I knew, hey, I'm gonna have to watch the way I walk, the way I talk, etc. Right? Because I remember there's a time where I don't know if I shared this with you all on the channel. Where I was 15, I had one of my homeboys. He's a Pan-African to this day, and then we was in my room playing PlayStation, and we're having a conversation. My brother walks into the room and says, "Shut up," and I just stopped talking immediately. And he was like, man, what the hell? Like, why you just stop talking like that? You gonna just let him? And I'm like, oh man, you ain't gotta live with him. You know what I'm saying? You ain't gotta live with him. And he like, man, why don't you just fight him back? And I was like, well, I tried that, but he got about 90 pounds on me. it ain't working too well. So I just
Is
gotta,
your brother still alive?
yeah,
Is he still alive?
yeah. But at the
Okay.
time, my brother was probably 205, and I probably was like 120. And I was about 5, maybe 3, and he was 6'2".
I see.
So yeah, I was like, man, I gotta just do what he said. I just gotta do what he said. But they was like, what the hell? Like, I'm talking about, we were in an in-depth conversation. I'm speaking. He came in the room, said, shut up, and I just
Yeah, the pipe down,
yeah,
pipe down.
literally. So it's one of those issues. But I agree with you 100%.
No, but I agree that these guys should have gotten because you convinced me, because of the extensive acts of what they would have done in kidnapping, in SA, in several other things. Breaking and entering is another thing too. Without a warrant, it's so many things. And you also have to convict them based off of the fact that these were police officers. These were agents of the government. The standard becomes higher. The standard becomes higher for them. So I think that, like you say, the 10-year sentence to me is ridiculous. 40 years around the range, you say without the possibility of parole, that's understandable,
Right. But yeah, I just think of, of course, the last part being the criminal conspiracy. And that to me, when they actually sat down and said, okay, here's the plan. We're going to plant evidence. So criminal tools, right? They're just a lot when you talk about for a police officer to engage in that type of behavior, and they're held at a higher standard, right? They're supposed to uphold the law. They're supposed to be protectors of citizens, not, harming citizens and assaulting citizens. And that they say that they had been doing this for 20 years, 2 decades. And unfortunately, we know this is a racially motivated attack because some of the racial slurs that they used, that they went to the home because they were both living with a white woman. But the fact that, of course, they were doing this to even white citizens as well.
So what's going to have to happen as well is you will have to go over their 20-year record in terms of conviction that they would have done in being out there, because many people could have possibly been held up in court, in jail right now with extensive sentences based on the so-called Goon Squad. We need to go into their record to see what these guys have actually done, who they would have sent to jail, all these kinds of things, because I think that they had a gun with them to set them up. It's so many things. Yeah, it's so many things that extends outside of what these guys would have done. And I think it was 5 of these guys. So I don't know. I'm curious to see what happens in reference to the people who are going to get let go because of what these guys would have done.
Absolutely. Mr. Sandman says this is part of traditional African culture that would I argue what you're saying would benefit us today. A man's wife an estranged wife wouldn't be allowed to entertain stranger men, right? So this is true. So even before the damn police became police. So Sister Raw, tap in so we can understand what we can try to decode your message, right? So we can.
Yeah, that's my sister from Jamaica. Big up to Sister Raw.
Okay.
Yeah, yes. She's a good sister, very good sister.
Speaking that patois, okay.
Yeah.
That's right. Absolutely. So yeah, definitely tap in, sister. Love to hear what you have to say. We're talking about the Mississippi Goon Squad family. I made the argument that sentencing is not justice. Of course, justice for us, I view justice differently. Justice is not individuals who are harming us being held accountable, but justice is us developing the political, social, economic, and military capacity to prevent these type of assaults from even taking place. And I'm thinking not just here in the United States, but globally, right? No mic here, but sister, you don't need a mic. You don't need a mic, and you don't have to cam up. And you can use a pseudonym, which you're using. So you don't need a microphone to tap in and be part of the conversation. Neither I or Brother Bawana have a microphone. So definitely want you to tap in and be part of the conversation. So let's look internally. And I'm going to put you on the hot seat, Brother Bawana.
Sure.
I don't know if you are a legal firearm owner. Let me ask you this question. Let me backtrack. Do you have children?
No.
Okay, you do not have children.
No.
Let's say you did have children. Let's say you had 2 kids, 3 kids. You got a son and 2 daughters.
No sweat.
You're married. You have African family, you're doing your thug dizzle, right? These officers break into your home. Would you be willing to make the ultimate sacrifice?
No, absolutely, because you know why? Castle doctrine. Castle doctrine. A man home is his castle.
Right.
So that if you come inside my home without a warrant or um, a rightful reason to be there,
Hmm.
I have a right to defend myself and my family and my property. First of all, I think that's a constitutional right.
Yeah,
I think that's a constitutional right. So absolutely, you have to show me cause for coming inside my home. If you don't have a rightful reason to be there, then I have a rightful reason to defend myself and my property. You know, the hillbillies know these kinds of constitutional rules. That's why you see situations happening in these far flung parts of the United States of America. You know, because they have a right to be in specific areas. One unique thing about the Americans that I wish we had here, though.
You talking about the Bahamas?
Yeah, one unique thing about the American Constitution that we don't have here, which is citizens' right to own and possess private firearms.
Wait. You all can't own guns in the Bahamas?
No, not. We don't, as private citizens, absolutely not. Unless you're a business owner, no. You could call the police.
Wow.
But if you're a hunter, if you're going hunting and things of that nature.
But I would presume that you all have a very low homicide rate, yes?
You would presume that. Yeah, that's a presumption. But I would say that in the surrounding family islands, like you say, you went to Freeport, and there are other surrounding islands. But the city of Nassau, it's high crime situations going on here, almost like Jamaica.
Okay, got you. So Sister Raw, you could tap in by the link the link is in the chat. So if you just click on the link, you'll be able to tap in. The link right below your comment. You'll be able to tap in and be part of the conversation. Also, family, if you're watching on Twitter, the link to the chat is in the comments below the video. Want you all to come in if you're watching on X, formerly known as Twitter. And of course, you're watching Bequaline Network and Lumumba Speaks. We're doing a dual broadcast regarding why the Mississippi Goon Squad sentencing is not justice, right? So yeah, I would agree with you there. I think that's a situation where, as Twister would say, you got to go out like kamikaze. Right?
Absolutely. You have that to me, that is the beauty of your Constitution. First of all, you have the privilege of gun ownership. That's the first thing, and the fact that you have the right to defend yourself. You know, castle doctrine is a man home is his castle. So I respect any person who would, like you say, give up the ultimate sacrifice and defend his family. His family.
But I will say this: when we talk about the Constitution, particularly the Second Amendment, you may be unaware of this, but the Second Amendment was created as a way to buffer as a way to strengthen the slaveocracy. So many people aren't aware that the Second Amendment was created as a way to quell slave revolts.
Is that right? Is that right?
I actually have a couple books on it behind me to where it was created as a way to prevent slave revolts from being successful by requiring every white male to own a firearm.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, matter of fact, let me see if I can grab the book and I will pull it up for you.
That's very interesting.
Here we go. Yeah, here we go. The second by Carol Anderson, Racing in Guns in a Fatally Unequal America. The Second Amendment, as Carol Anderson definitely establishes here, was written in the blood of enslaved Black people. Our stalemated gun rights debates have focused on the idea that the Second Amendment preserves liberty rather than its historic role in denying it. This book does a great deal of change the parameters of that conversation. So yeah, I am of course, supporter of the Second Amendment, but I do think it's important to understand the origins of where that constitutional right comes from.
I did not know that, but you know what? If I was in America, I would still benefit from it.
Well, absolutely, yes.
Yeah, that's very important. That especially when you consider the so-called minority,
yes.
I think that is very important to be a gun owner.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, did you ever do a show on gun ownership? By the way, the importance of gun ownership.
I did a show on an issue regarding gun violence, but I need to do a show on the importance of gun ownership. You're right about that. The importance of Black gun ownership.
Yeah, I think that's a very important thing, you know, especially because there is a, I don't know, within our community, I don't know if gun ownership is high or is extremely low. You know, I think that when it comes to gun ownership, black folks on the legal side of the game are very squeamish.
Yes.
But I think that there is an importance in going to the gun range and
Yes.
practicing. All these things
Yes.
are extremely
Yes.
important to do.
Absolutely. This is something that I've done with my daughter since she was 10 years old. I've taken her to the range, right? I've taught her how to load, unload, what to do if the weapon jams, right? How to aim, the whole nine, right? So
Yes, yes,
and I told her when she turns 18, I'm gonna get her a little something, something. You know what I mean?
yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. So I think it's important, and I think you're right about that in terms of in our community on the legal side, people are a bit squeamish. We know if a person's a miscreant, they don't give a damn. They got 40 in the house, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But and then part of that, of course, is this northern concept, right? And very quick, because I think you brought up a good point, is that one of the things that we tend to find is this concept of nonviolence being in the way, right? This impetus of focusing on the philosophy of Dr. King, right, and Satyagraha that comes from Mahatma Gandhi. However, what most people may be unaware of is the concept of being nonviolent in the face of white aggression is not something that is historically accurate in terms of looking at the history of how Black people respond to white aggression, right? It's something that is actually rather new, and we tend to find that it typically was just emphasized in a one particular historical moment, and that was Dr. King's leadership in the civil rights movement.
What is also interesting too is many people, Dr. King was nonviolent, but many people who was protecting him surely wasn't nonviolent. In fact, I
think if you ever get a chance to read Dr. King's autobiography, which I have behind me here, we know it was also edited by Claiborne Carson. There's a section. Oh, here we go. Right, I'm grabbing them all today, aren't I?
No, it's very good. It's very good to do. Very good. Show the people by the way.
He's having a conversation with Stokely Carmichael, and he talked about how the use of he said this isn't an issue of using a gun if someone breaks into your home. He said they were simply using nonviolence as a tactic when they were engaging in political protest and direct action. He said that he was not a pacifist. I'm trying to find the section. I may not be able to. Let me see if I can put Stokely Carmichael. I'll go to the index rather quickly. All right, here we go. I might be able to find it now. So it's just something, just to put in context when people make these arguments. He said they were sitting in his, okay, here we go. So this is on page 317 of Dr. King's autobiography. He states, I try to make it clear, I began with a plea for nonviolence. This immediately aroused some of our friends from the Deacons of Defense, who contended that self-defense was essential and that therefore nonviolence should not be a prerequisite for participation in the march, right? They were joined in this view by some of the activists from CORE and SNCC. So CORE is the Congress of Racial Equality, and then of course SNCC is Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. I try to make it clear that besides opposing violence on principle, I could imagine nothing more impractical and disastrous than for any of us through misguided judgment to precipitate a violent confrontation in Mississippi. We had neither the resources nor the techniques to win. Furthermore, I asserted many Mississippi whites from the government on down would enjoy nothing more than for us to turn to violence in order to use this as an excuse to wipe out the scores of Negroes in and out of the march. Finally, I contended that the debate over the question of self-defense was unnecessary since few people suggested that Negroes should not defend themselves as individuals when attacked. The question was not whether one should use a gun when his home was attacked, but whether it was tactically wise to use a gun while participating in an organized demonstration. Right, so the context of Dr. King's nonviolence was simply when they were engaging in political agitation, not in terms of philosophy of life.
But what has happened is that the context was never explained to the so-called Black masses. So what they have internalized is that we believe in nonviolence. We're going to pray about it, and we're going to, do it that way on a spiritual level. And I think that because that context was never explained, you get some Negroes out, some Black folks out here who still have that false belief that
Mhm.
first of all that King was really talking about as a lifestyle and not as a strategy. That's the first
Right.
false belief that we have in our minds. The second thing is if there's even if you have this whole so-called patriotism as an Americanism, America believes in gun rights.
Right.
America believes in guns. So as a citizen, that's what
You can make the argument America has never believed in solving any issue with nonviolence.
it's a fact. That's a
Right.
fact.
Matter of fact, America believes in preventive, preemptive strikes.
It's a fact as well.
If you think you're gonna talk out the side of your mouth, but guess what? They said we're gonna put hands on you so bad you ain't even ready to come back. That's how America operates. They have
Shock and awe strategy.
preemptive strikes.
Shock and awe strategy. So I'm
Yeah.
saying that one of the fundamental things that black folks should embrace is the fact that they should be gun owners,
Mhm.
active gun owners. So I believe in that as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely, 1000%. I'm with you 100% on that, brother. Absolutely. So listen, family, if you're watching, tap in. We got a number of people watching on X, formerly known as Twitter. So if you can't tap in on X with the StreamYard link that I put in the, of course, comments, tap in here on the Lumumba Speaks of Equaline Network on YouTube and be part of the conversation. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the notification bell. Make sure you smash the thumbs up button, okay? We're trying to get those algorithms up. We're definitely trying to stream more and more because we want to get back to monetizing the show. If you want to be a blessing to Lumumba Speaks, you can bless us at Cash App, Lumumba Speaks, $ Lumumba Speaks, right? On Cash App, if you want to be a blessing to the show. As you know, this is a Black empowerment initiative where we believe we can gain the competitive advantage by always, keyword always, betting on Black.
You have joined forces with Bikalon now. This is when you say is the Lumumba. Okay, all right. Bikalon is a very smart brother.
Yes,
Very
he is.
smart.
Yes, he is. And I argue that Brother Bikalon is the Pan-African social media extraordinaire. I mean, what he's able to do in disseminating information, I think is absolutely wonderful. And then we have Brother Jabril of Africa, who was from the Twin Cities by way of Somalia, who was the organizer extraordinaire. He takes organizing very seriously, very passionate about it. He does a great job, in fact. Then, of course, we have Brother Dwayne Omawale, who, of course, is one of my teachers. He is your favorite historian. And so he taps in a lot as well. So those are some brothers that I'm working with, not only to develop, of course, my channel, but and disseminate the gospel of Pan-Africanism, revolutionary Pan-African nationalism, but also who helped me in terms of my development personally and professionally as an African man living here in the depth and decadence of the Western world.
No, absolutely, and I think that this is me first. I think that and how we use social media is extremely important, and the fact that your brothers have gotten together and is using social media as a form of edutainment. I think that is an important thing because there's so much misinformation out here.
Yes,
there
sir.
needs to be someone who is, well, even if it's a group of men, to clean up a lot of the mess that's in social, and even to challenge it,
Absolutely.
So I think it's extremely important what your brothers have decided to do because I am asking, where are the intellectuals? Where are the academics? And this is an answer to the misinformation that's out here on these YouTube streets. So I thank you all brothers for
Absolutely. In fact, I can recall that, somebody was talking about Shannon Sharp's YouTube channel, the podcast. Said, we then did this, that, and a third. And somebody said, man, all they doing is nothing but black man gossiping. I said, wow. I said, damn, they're right. So they're talking about shit that isn't even relevant.
we are not living in that time right now. It's too dangerous to be focused on frivolities. We have to be serious in this century. It's 2024, and we can't be dancing and shucking jiving, man.
Yeah,
so I think it's important to have these brothers doing what you're doing right now.
Absolutely. So these are some of the issues that we're dealing with. Like I said, I'm gonna do a show tomorrow on unpacking Candace Owens' Breakfast Club interview. I think she was talking out of both sides of her mouth, and she still was engaging in her usual anti-black rhetoric, but she was, engaging in some sleight of tongue and making some backhanded compliments and insults to Black people. So I'm gonna make sure I cover that tomorrow when we really go in, because she's someone who I think does is a huge detriment to our community, particularly in terms of the misinformation that she parrots. One thing she kept saying on the Breakfast Club interview, and I just give you all a little teaser what I'm going to discuss tomorrow, but she kept saying that people were doing better under Trump. That's just a fact. But she wasn't able to provide any metrics, any data to substantiate that claim, right? And the first thing I thought of is that we know that what? The rise in white nationalist hate groups went up exponentially. The rise of what? Flagrant acts of white nationalism went up exponentially during Trump's regime.
Oh man, Brother Lumumba, don't you know we have many intellectual mercenaries out here who are for profit. You know, they ideologically they are prostitutes. They go anywhere where the money is. Anywhere. You had Thomas Sowell who's doing that for years.
Absolutely.
Now, you had Jesse Lee Peterson who does it. You know, with the so-called conservative, the conservative movement. But we have many intellectual mercenaries out here where ideologically they go on anywhere where the bag is. And Candace Owens she is not the only one out here who is prostituting herself intellectually for dollars. There are many of them, brother.
Absolutely. And she stated that I'm not for any political party, but as Black people, we need to know that anytime you have more government, that's detrimental to our community. It never helps anyone when there's more government. So I said, okay, you got to fact check somebody, because the Breakfast Club, no shade, but they're entertainers, not intellectuals. I give two examples where more government was beneficial. First was FDR's New Deal. Large public works projects that took unemployed citizens and put them to work. That was more government. That's a benefit. Would you agree?
No, I Brother Lumumba, I agree. Brother Lumumba, you are a man who is almost on a PhD level. Well, you're about to get it. You know, the Breakfast Club does not interview. Well, they do it sometimes, but the people they need to have on their panel to reference these ideas and talk about these kinds of matters, they don't have them on. They have entertainer. What is Miss Owens' background? Does she even have a college degree to talk about these kinds of
topics? I believe she does. I do believe she has a college degree.
And if she does, when she talks on certain topics, is she talking on a professional level about these topics, or is she just going off of the top of the head? If I am addressing economic issues, I'm sure there are many Black economists who they could sit down and reference and talk to. Why are they specifically going to Candace Owens? I don't even know if she have a background in economics, brother.
Right, I know.
You don't. So why is she talking about these things? Why is she referencing these things? You know, like you say, that these panels are for a specific reason. They're about cloud chasing. They're about entertainment. They're about bringing in the many eyes to the viewers so they could get advertisement dollars and things of that nature. But in the real world, when you're dealing with serious matters and serious issues, I wouldn't speak to Candace Owens. I mean, well, okay.
So yeah, she went to college, but she didn't graduate, right? But her degree was in journalism. So let me give two other examples of where more government was beneficial. So we talked about the New Deal with FDR. Second would be free breakfast for K through 12 students. That's more government. That's been beneficial, right? The third I can think of off the top of my head is what? Pell Grants. To help people go to college, first generation, undergraduates. You don't have to take out a loan. So these are three examples right there to where more government is actually.
The GI Bill is very good.
Example. But one of the things that we have to understand with conservatives is their goal is less government because they believe in neoliberalism, right? The market would adjust and solve all social problems. But what happens with neoliberalism is you privatize everything and the people at the top make the money.
I believe a little bit of both is good. I believe a little bit of both.
So do I. But I'm just speaking to how disingenuous people on both sides are. And right now we're talking about the right. You know, I've done a whole lot of research and we talk a lot about people on the left in terms of how nonsensical their views are, so on and so forth, I would argue that they oftentimes are intellectual prostitutes as well. They're floundering and they're just looking for a place to land. But right, but like I said, you have to really be able to unpack and interrogate and deconstruct what the person's actually saying.
And this is the importance of people like yourself and people who understand the conversation. First of all, they have to be able to understand the conversation and then unpack it and speak it to their audiences on a level where their audience can understand it as well.
Right.
Because when you talk in terms of government is good, people are gonna ask, well, why is government good? When you break it down in terms of what you would have mentioned, say, oh, I got it now. Big government. What is that? What is neoliberalism? I expect for the academics to come in the room and say, well, let me break it down. Like yourself and Dr. Carr from Howard University, y'all are very good at that. Breaking it down.
I've met him before.
Did you? Oh, okay.
Well, he's friends with one of my mentors.
I see. Yeah, it would be good for the brothers who actually understand the conversation to break it down on a very simplified level where the audience could be able to follow along and participate as well.
Absolutely. And Sister Ron says, bless up, but never bless seeing, overstaying. Absolutely. So I take it you're a Rasta, sister.
Yeah, she's a Rasta. She's a Rasta, yeah.
Sister.
Yeah, she's a Rasta sister. Yeah,
I've had my time with Rastafari. I got to do a show on my time as a Rastafarian.
I have issues with well, I'm not gonna go there, but I'll leave it.
You said you have issues with Rastas.
No, not with Rastas. No, I have issues with Selassie. I have issues with Selassie.
Right. And so this is what I gotta do. I'm gonna do a show on it.
Oh goodness, brother, the moment you get yourself in problems, man.
Everything is gonna be love.
Oh man. But I leave it alone.
Listen. Listen, I'm body by Lumumba. I'm not gonna have any problems. You know that. I'm okay. So so I'm not gonna have any problems, but there's something to be cognizant of. But yeah, family, tap in. Want you all to be part of the conversation. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, the thumbs up, and the notification bell. You're watching Be Quran Network and Lumumba Speaks, where we believe we can gain a competitive advantage by always betting on Black. So we kind of dovetailed just a little bit, got into the weeds just a little bit. But back to the original topic. How do you think we could solve this problem in a practical manner, right? Because once again, we're not going to deal with right and left, but just practically, how can we solve this problem of extrajudicial violence, white vigilantism? How do you think we can solve this problem?
It's what Black Americans historically have been doing already.
African Americans.
What did I say?
You said Black.
Okay, sorry. African Americans have been doing historically. I think that through organizing is extremely important. I think that the organizations can be curtailed into these little interest groups, these little specific interest groups. For instance, the so-called Black Lives Matter group was first they did a great job at organizing, but then the organizations, I feel, was curtailed into specific interests vis-a-vis LGBT, vis-a-vis all manner of different issues that was really away from the general issues that day-to-day African Americans face on a daily basis. I think that you can't let your organizations, in terms of when you're calling yourself African American organizations, be curtailed into specific little small interest groups that don't necessarily affect the large amount, the majority of African Americans. And LGBT does not necessarily impact the majority of African Americans. The majority of African Americans are heterosexuals. So their LGBT issues can't necessarily be, well, let's not even go in. I'm not going to go into the weeds. I'm just saying that organization is a very good thing. There should be checks and balances. You have to keep your leaders honest. You have to keep your leaders very, very honest. When they say things, you have to ensure that they follow up on the things that they say that they're going to do. I think that our communities need to hold our leaders accountable. You can't just send people into office and then not check for them until the next electoral year. It doesn't work that way. Make sure our leaders are doing what they say that they're going to do when they get into high office. So I think that there's an importance there in doing that. But organization to me is key.
I would agree. I would agree 100%. Matter of fact, Brother Jabril states that all the time. We need to organize, and he argues that we don't do that enough as a people. And this, of course, leads to many of the issues in our community that we can actually solve, but we know we're still dealing with them, even though we had the capacity to actually solve these issues. So, but Mr. Sandman, you said you could tap in 20 minutes. Appreciate that. Bring some more people on with you. Want to have a great conversation. So I would agree with you there as well. I think part of the issue is oftentimes we elect someone and the battleship becomes a cruise ship.
Definitely.
But, I think some of the young urban vernacular is something that we need to think about politically. That is what? If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. Right? Dr. Amos Wilson in his book, Blueprint for Black Power, talks about that we have to have a consistent warlike disposition because we are at war as a people.
The issue is that most of us do not believe that we are at war.
Yes.
Did you see some of these protests? If you've noticed some of them, you see people dancing in front of the police officers. They're dancing and shaking their. Do people? If Brother Lumumba, if I'm going to war, would I be dancing and shaking my bottom and looking at? It's amazing. It's amazing. So, like you say, I think that our people need to know. How do you explain to the masses of Black folks that they are at war right now? When they don't see, they think that war is you dress up in a war regalia. You have the tanks outside your neighbors and guns and different kinds of things. They don't understand that we are currently at facing a war right now in the United States of America. How do you explain that to the masses of Black folks?
Absolutely. Yeah, it shows how much of a joke. A lot of our people are engaged. It's hard.
No, I'm asking, how do you explain that to the rank and file person, your next door neighbor who might be Black? How do you express to them that, listen, brother, sister, we are at war right now. We need to change the way we eat. We need to change the way we think. We need to change who we do business with. All of these. How do you express these kinds of ideas to your next door neighbor? If they're a Black person.
Right. So, real quick, the leadership has been compromised. Dub 3000. So tap in, Dub, and share with us what you mean by that. So come in, be part of the conversation. The link is in the chat, and the link, of course, is in the description. Want you to tap in, be part of the conversation, share with us what you mean by that. So I'm going to play this video that speaks a bit to what you're talking about, right? So let's go here. Yeah, that's enough. We don't need to see that anymore.
Would heterosexual Black male would join this organization? I would not. I don't care even if some of the things that they talk about is legitimate. Just in watching this BS, you just why would I want to join an organization like this, Brother Lumumba?
Yes, I know. Matter of fact, I had a conversation with a sister who will forever remain nameless, but we were politicking, as they say. And she stated that she was a Pan-Africanist. Turned out that she was a liberal feminist, right? Because me, I'm going to see if you really about that life. And she talked about how one of her goals was to get Black men to feel comfortable enough to walk down the street holding each other's hands. And I said to her, out of all the issues we're facing as a people, that's what you're focused on? Getting Brother Bawana and myself to walk down the street holding hands?
It'll never happen.
But I said,
what are you talking
how
about?
does that help us move toward liberation? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. These your people though, Brother Bawana. These are your people.
They are. I accept that. We are. Some of us are very ignorant. Some of us are very extremely misinformed, and I have to embrace them. Us as we are. I don't like it. I don't have to like it, but
That's
it's
right.
my duty. It's your job. It's your job. You are in a minute. You're gonna be in a position where you have to properly inform my people in terms of how they need to think.
Absolutely.
So I put that onus back on you as well.
Very quick. I know, right? Very quickly, family. The link is in the chat. Dub 3000. I need you to cam up in queue before I can bring you in. Just have to make sure you're not someone who's trolling. So you can simply cam up in queue. I can see you very quickly, and then you can turn your camera off. Okay, I see you, brother. You can turn your camera off, and I'm gonna bring you in. Thank you very much. All right, here we go. Brother Dub 3000. What's the word? You are live, brother.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for inviting me in first.
No problem.
What I meant by that, like compromise, y'all were speaking to awareness. How do you get people to see that we're in a war?
Yes,
Correct?
sir.
Right. So what from my studies and what I've been realizing is that it's coming on all fronts, right? It is just in fact that a war, right? So all your media, all of it's been co-opted. So there is no radicalism. You know, a lot of it feels like that, but it isn't, right? That's why you hear a lot of criticism of, you know, the modern organizations like NAACP or the National Black Caucus or so-called black media, different. And it's not like I'm not trying to tack over. I mean, Claude Anderson to go that he has in one of his books where he shows as our representation has went up over time, and you look in one column and you see our our incarceration rates, our actual advancement, right? Nothing has changed. We have people there, but there's no, I'll land it here. We have people there, but there's no representation, right? So it appears, and that's on purpose, like there's been change, but then you'll see things, and that's why everyone gets upset, because it's just an appearance of that, and it's done on purpose, right? So in my humble opinion, it's done. I mean, because it's, you know, we don't control the media, we don't control any of that stuff, right? So that's all I'm saying. That's why it's so hard to explain it to people, because there's a reward for keeping the status quo, right? So
You're absolutely right. Scott Friedman, I need you to cam up in queue before I can bring you into the live. I need to make sure that you're not trolling. So if you could cam up in queue, that'd be greatly appreciated. Just cam up in queue, then I'll bring you onto the live. Yeah, I think you're right there, Brother Dub. You know, I was having a conversation with a brother. He said, you know, we got to focus on the youth. Many of the adults are gone. Brother Friedman, I got you. You can turn your camera off. I'm gonna bring you in. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right there. I think one of the best ways I think of, what the fuck? I don't know. Dude cammed up. It was a black guy with a shirt on. I don't know what the hell that was. Or why
that was messed up. And that's why we can't have nothing. It's, you know, trying to have a serious conversation and you get stuff like that.
Yeah. And I had a guy cam up in queue, right, sitting there at the computer with his shirt on, that he put something like that in there. So unfortunate, but let's stay focused. You know, I banned him from the studio, so he can never come back in any capacity. But I think of Dr. Frances Cress Welsing's work, the ISIS papers. She talks about that we are under attack in all 11 areas of human activity. So in the courses that I teach, I talk about that, and then I provide examples, right? I play a clip from the movie Independence Day, where the Jewish guy who worked at the cable company says it's like chess. You strategically set up all your pieces, and then at the right time you strike, right? And then I provide those examples in the Black community where people have engaged in that type of behavior, right? Where white supremacists have engaged in that type of behavior in which they control the education, they control politics, they control the economics, they control sports, they control, entertainment. So we're ensnared no matter where you go, and then most people capitulate as a result, because as we know, as Paul Robeson taught us, the battlefront is everywhere, there is no sheltered rear. So something to consider when we talk about teaching our people that we are at war, and we're fighting for our survival as a people.
One thing that the control, where the control ends, is really me personally. In all the things that you reference, if we are able to control the mind to me is where the real battle is fought. So you could have media, you could have food, you could have all these points of entry where these people have a strategic control over. But if I control my mind, then I'm gonna buy food that's not gonna kill me. I may watch television. I'll choose not to watch the nonsense. I choose not to watch the nonsense. I'm a be a conscious human being rather than an unconscious one, and that's where I win. And I think that if you get more of us, winning the battle for the mind, I think that the results look a little bit different. It'll look a little bit different within our community. So I think that that's where the real battle is fought, within the mind.
I would agree 100%. I know that Hakiar Matabuti, he wrote a great book 34 years ago, Black Man, Obsolete, Single, Dangerous. Matter of fact, I'm gonna bring it up, put it on the screen. And in this book, he talks about let me bring this up here. He talks about there's a revolutionary mindset, and then there is an assimilationist, accommodationist mindset, riot mindset. So he argues that unfortunately most of the people in our community have an accommodationist riot mindset. And he talks about what it takes to have a revolutionary mindset, right? And what that looks like and how you would go about living that. So let me see if I can actually grab the book, and I'm going to discuss, highlight what he's referring to. But you all could go. Have you all heard of this book before?
I heard of Marabuti before, but I've not heard of the book that you mentioned. No,
I haven't heard of it. I'm gonna definitely pick this one up. I agree with that sentiment, because a lot of, and to speak what you say, like when we hear about our leaders like MLK or Malcolm, right?
Yes.
You never hear about, most people don't know that, have never read a book on, my first book I read on Martin Luther King was Measure of a Man, but a lot of people don't know he wasn't a capitalist, right? Mm-hmm. And so they don't really know his stance on anything. Most people don't know. I didn't know this. There were 5 cases on, and jumping over here to Brown versus the Board of Education, there were 5 cases that were boiled down to 1, but it came down to resources. And I was hearing on that B1 channel, they were saying, our people are in resource deprivation, mm-hmm. right? And benign neglect and symbolism. Dr. Claude Anderson talks a lot about that. And the way I like to look at racism is, as he teaches, or as he states in his book, The Black History Reader, the whole purpose of it is to maldistribute the wealth from one group to the next. Absolutely. But what we do is people keep calling it prejudice, and they're not the same thing. You can't legislate someone not liking you, but right. I can maldistribute these resources, because anytime you see something get fixed, what do they give anybody who needs a good start? Resources. Immigrant comes over, they give them resources. Your home destroyed by something, you have insurance, you need resources. What do businesses get? Tax breaks, get resources. They get, and so it's not a rocket science to figure out there's nothing wrong with our people, wrong with us. It's just that they are not going to do that. They have no intention to do it. They'll do anything but that. That's how you find out where people stand when you speak on reparations, and they'll, even our own, they will really go up against us. And now that program is in there, and then they wonder why things don't change, and that's what is very frustrating.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So provide triggers for evolution. I want you to tap in. Defender of Logic wants you to tap in as well. Absolutely. You say that book was published more than 3 decades ago. Yes, it was published 1991. So yes, 33 years ago. But I'm going to talk about this very quickly. He talks about the survival culture existence, right? This concept of accommodationist riot mentality. He says, number one, this is someone who does not read or study after formal education, buys few books, reads mainly newspapers, sports pages, or popular novels and magazines, works 8 hours a day for someone else, welfare conscious, get it for nothing attitude, unsystematic, and definitely not organized unless it is for someone else, backwardly individualistic, I mean mine mentality, not family oriented, regards mate as property, rates children low, generally single minded, does not want children or responsibility of home life. We see that a lot in our community now. They're not land conscious, actively fights against discipline, not serious majority of the time, not critical or analytical, prefers not to think for self, consumer junkie. If it's advertised, he's got it. Can't distinguish wants from needs. I'll show you. I got a private chat very quickly. Title of that book, title of the book is Black Man, Obsolete, Single, Dangerous to African American Family in Transition. I'll put the title in the chat in a moment once I finish, of course, reading this. Number 11, loves social and nightlife, lives for the weekend, loves sexual conquest. I might have been guilty of that many years ago, not now, right? Number 12, a defeatist. Has few goals other than acquisition of material artifacts, puts elders in nursing homes and forgets them, gravitates towards incompetence and mediocrity, involved in black on black crime or is apathetic about the issue, loves any kind of music of the new generation, can give instructions but not follow them, avoids and rejects criticism, committed to self-liberation only, drug dependent, cigarettes, alcohol, hard drugs, etc. Now let's talk about maximum cultural development, revolutionary mentality, study-oriented, reads, evaluates, and debates books, newspapers, magazines, and scholarly journals, accepts the challenge of education. Come on, we cook with fish grease. I'll say Black Power. Worker looks for ways in which to actively work for self, may hold a job outside in order to sustain self and family, focuses on being self-reliant. Organized and systematic, efficient and diligent, progressively collective, conscious of others, cooperative, family-oriented, regards mate as a partner in struggle, loves children, values trust in relationships. Land conscious, realizes that the only thing that nobody is making anymore is land unless you go to Dubai, right? Disciplined, strong, unyielding, energetic, serious, practices fair play, order, and punctuality, honest and dependable, analytical and critical. Number 10, frugal, buys mainly on need basis and saves. Number 11, social life is developmental and involves children. 12, creatively aggressive, where dare the impossible if it is possible. Number 13, respects elders. Number 14, dislikes incompetence and mediocrity. Number 15, fights against black on black crime and understands that its root is right on black crime. Number 16, loves black art, music, and literature. 17, can give and follow instructions, encourages experimentation and criticism. 18, committed to black liberation, local, national, international. 19, does not use drugs. 20, politically active, not crisis-oriented, acts on information rather than reacts, plans for the long term, alert, prepared for change. 21, self-confident, respects others regardless of race or culture. 22, understands the economic forces that control our lives on a local, national, and international level. 23, rational in decisions and actions. 24, rewards merit and achievement. That is maximum cultural development, a revolutionary mentality as opposed to a survival cultural existence, accommodationist, riot mentality that's coming from, of course, the master sage, the master and teacher, one of the founding founders of Third World Press, Dr. Hakiar Madabudi, in his seminal text, Black Men, Obsolete, Single, Dangerous, The African American Family in Transition, published 33 years ago, 1991. Provide triggers for evolution. I need you to tap in, same as Defender of Logic. What say you all?
The funny thing is, when listening to that, especially when he was talking about the trifle, I have to get that book, by the way. When he was talking about the trifling men, I am reminded of this book that I read by the sister called Shahrazad Ali, called the Black Man's Guide to Understanding a Black Woman. And she talked about all of the ills, that I guess, I don't know who she was specifically referencing when she was talking about Black women, which community. But it's a very fascinating book, and he is like the opposite. He's kind of lambasting some of the brothers out here and how they think, in terms of the remedies that he was suggesting. I fall down a bit on that list, and some of that list that he was mentioning in terms of the remedies, I fall down in terms of not using drugs, because I drink every weekend. I'm a drinker a little bit. So maybe I fall out in reference to that, but I see myself in a lot of the remedies that he was suggesting. I think that'd probably be a very, very good book to read. So I'll have to get that.
Yes, it's one of the best books I've ever read in my life. And in fact, the true story, I read, when I first bought this book, it was about 14, 15 years ago. I read it and I had it marked up like the subway in Harlem. Okay. I loaned it out to a brother, good brother. Brother Dub, that's the title of the book right there. And he lent it to someone else. So of course I was hurt, upset, but he did what he could to make up for that by purchasing me this copy here.
That's awesome. Right? That's awesome.
So,
that's awesome.
Yeah. So I tell people all the time, this book is a banger. So for my children, I say this. For my daughter, she has to read Africana Womanism by Cornelia Hudson Weems before she transitions outside of my home. And for my son, he has to read this book right here before he transitions out.
Awesome.
So he has to read this book and the autobiography of Malcolm X. My daughter has to read Africana Womanism, and Assata Shakur's memoir. And then they both have to read Blueprint for Black Power by Dr. Amos Wilson.
Okay, I could see that. But by the way, you made a big statement just now. It's like one of the best. You say, is it the best book you've ever read? Is it the best?
One of the best.
Okay. That's a big statement. Big statement. I gotta read that book. Read that book.
This is not no cap, because this is when I was a young man. So I'm still trying to understand, manhood, but I also wanted to make sure that I was coming into manhood that was a divine African masculine revolutionary manhood. And I came across this book and I actually got to meet Hakiar Madabudi. There's actually a picture of me signing the book. When I met him, I was like, man, how old was I? I was in my 20s. And I'm cheesing like a little kid at the candy store. Like literally, I mean, you can see all the pearly whites. And can you sign the book for me? He signed it, and power and love, brother. And I just was like, oh man, this is the best thing ever, right? So I was just very happy I was able to meet him. But it helped me. One of the things he talked about, and that this is something I think is very important, he talked about a father and something about fatherhood. And I really took this to heart. I gotta find this part, because he talks about fatherhood. I know, Brother Bawana, you're gonna meet yourself a queen one day, and then y'all gonna hold it down and you're gonna be a father. I think it's very important that I touch on this part. What's a daddy, father in the marriage, 12 secrets of life, never without a book, 200 books all Black people should study. Oh, man, there's a part in here where he talks about being a father and in terms of things that you should do and things you should not do as a father. And he kind of goes through a checklist. And I actually remember I actually have wrote it down and framed what he discussed. The African American Father Pledge, page 193. The African American Father Pledge. I will work to be the best father I can be. Fathering is a daily mission, and there are no substitutes for good fathers, because I have not been taught to be a father in order to make my on-the-job training easier. I will study, listen, observe, and learn from my mistakes. I will openly display love and caring for my wife and children. I will listen to my wife and children. I will hug and kiss my children often. I will be supportive of the mother of my children and spend quality time with my children. I will teach by example. I will try to introduce myself and my family to something new and developmental each week. I will help my children with their homework and encourage them to be involved in extracurricular activities. I will read to or with my children as often as possible. I provide opportunities for my children to develop creatively in the arts, music, dance, drama, literature, and visual arts. I will challenge my children to do their best. I will encourage and organize frequent family activities for the home and away from the home. I would try to make life a positive adventure and make my children aware of their extended family. I will never be intoxicated or high in the presence of my children, nor would I use language unbecoming of an intelligent and serious father. I will be nonviolent in my relationships with my wife and children. As a father, my role will be to stimulate and encourage my children rather than to carry the big stick. I will maintain a home that is culturally in tune with the best of African American history, struggle, and future. This will be done in part by developing a library, record, disc, video, and visual art collections. I would teach my children to be responsible, disciplined, fair, and honest. I would teach them the value of hard work and fruitful production. I would teach them the importance of family, community, politics, and economics. I would teach them the importance of the Nguzo Saba and the role that ownership of property and businesses play in our struggle. As a father, I will attempt to provide my family with an atmosphere of love and security to aid them in the development into sane, loving, productive, spiritual, hardworking, creative African Americans who realize that they have a responsibility to do well and help the less fortunate of this world. I will teach my children to be activists and to think for themselves. Yeah. And so this is something that I've implemented, that I've practiced on a diurnal basis for my children for the past 16 years. But to provide Triggers Revolution, Hockey did many community lectures in the early 90s and mid 90s, and as well, this was well known in addressing matters concerning Black men, similar to Amos Wilson. Absolutely. Absolutely. So tap in, family, if you all are watching. If you're on X, formerly known as Twitter, the link to the conversation, the link to this live stream is in the comments below the live stream. And then, of course, if you're watching here on YouTube, I'm going to put the link in the chat. I want you all to tap in, particularly provide for Triggers. I think you have some nuggets you can provide, as well as Defender of Logic. Absolutely. So any thoughts on that African-American father pledge?
Yes, it's interesting who gets referenced nowadays, and who our community reference in terms of the elders. You know, I hear the Claude Andersons of the world being referenced. Sometimes I hear Dr. Amos Wilson's, but I have not heard this man's name referenced enough. And I think that the remedies that he has is very relevant in terms of strong Black families, because we usually focus on economics, the money. But family is very important to building economics as well, especially when you have strong families. I think that that's a part of the key in building strong economics. So I think that his name should be referenced more in the mouths of many of the youngers coming up. Because like I say, all you hear is Dr. Claude Anderson, you hear Dr. Amos Wilson, sometimes you hear Mr. Neely Fuller. I think that his name needs to be referenced more, so it'll pique the curiosity of the listener to go back and try to figure out, well, what was this man talking about, and why is this man so important to this particular younger guy? Why is he referencing this guy so much? So I think that his name needs to be mentioned more.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with that. If I can go ahead.
Yeah, go right ahead, brother. Right
ahead. I agree with you, Neely Fuller. That's what came to mind, and that's just timeless. I think it's powerful because that's action to move on, and it lets us know that we're responsible for our liberation. We're responsible for that, and we have to take action. Hold
on, brother. I thought that we're supposed to depend on the largesse of others to liberate us and solve our problems.
Well, yeah, because you got to vote blue no matter who. And so, right, you got to vote blue no matter who. I know, and that's how I see who's who, because no matter what happens, it'll be like, I'll see. I'm not gonna name any names of people going off on our own people for saying, hey, we want to go the other way, whether they want to go to the, the red side or the blue side. My thing is you're still missing a point. You're trying to get something done, tangible. And I think that's, but that's what we.
No. We could touch on this because my rebuttal would be both organizations, both political parties or white supremacist organizations, that their policies are detrimental to African people in the United States and throughout the world.
Facts. Big facts.
Right. And in fact, I wrote an article on this on Medium. And matter of fact, you all need to, if you can, follow me on Medium. It costs you no money whatsoever to follow your boy on Medium. So I'm gonna put my the link to my Medium profile in the chat. Just follow me on Medium. Doesn't cost you any money whatsoever. But there's an article that I wrote talking about this very issue. And I'm gonna see if I can bring it up because I've written a lot of articles actually. So it's gonna take me a little. Okay, examining the American. Here we go. So I'm gonna pull this up, and then we're gonna bring this in here. Share screen. Bow. Okay, you all can see that, yes?
Yes.
Can you all see that? Okay,
yes, I can see it. Yes.
Okay, so American politics and how it really works, an examination of the American two-party electoral system. Yada yada yada. So I say here more in American society, how it really works, 2011. Aaron Olin Wright and Joel Rogers take aim at the myths of American society, in particular politics. For instance, they opine that the same special interest groups fund both major political parties, Republican and Democrat, and typically, aside from semantical issues, agree on major domestic and foreign policy concerns. For example, both parties in their respective presidential administrations supported apartheid in South Africa, the end of Reconstruction, the counterintelligence program against civil rights organizations, foreign aid to Israel, and Operation Iraqi Freedom, to name a few. Right?
Yeah.
So,
you're right on point. And I didn't mean to cut you off in that news.
No, you good.
They had, thank you. That Genius with the Malcolm X and the Martin Luther King, I think they did on History Channel. So remember I told you what I've been observing is the co-oping, but what they left out in there, I didn't watch the whole thing, but all I had to know is when I saw the part, they left out COINTELPRO. They left out all of his views, MLK's views on capitalism and things of that nature. So they leave that out. And so now, there you go. Now we reinvented it. And I think they even have anything they produce is going to be trash. And that's what we have to realize for our folks is stop getting our information. Who said that? Khalid Muhammad, don't expect those that don't treat you right to teach you right. That's all I say. My bad.
I want to 100% there.
I want to push back. No, I want to push back on you, Brother Lumumba and Dub 3000, because what if I say, as a so-called regular American, Black American person, what if I was to say to you guys, I'm not. First of all, y'all guys are looking at things from a Pan-Africanist lens. I'm not a Pan-African. I've never been to Africa. I'm an American. You are trying to convince me to opt out of the electoral process. I am an American citizen. I have a right to vote in my elections. And unfortunately, what the offer in the table is Democrat or Republican. Suppose I was to push back and say that to you guys. What would your responses be?
Well, I'm sorry. First off, I would say I'm so glad that you are pushing back, brother. I think that one of the ways that we can develop a better understanding of the political system and how it can benefit us is by having these type of, what we like to argue, courageous and constructive conversations, right? That's the political hat, Brother Bawana. I said, you told me to run, right? But number two, I would argue that we need to understand that America is not an island and that any policy that America engages in domestically, oftentimes, more often than not, there is a dual policy that they're engaging in internationally. And so we have to understand that when the American government engages in anti-Black policies here in America, they're also engaging in anti-Black policies abroad. And so there is a need to understand politically that anti-Blackness is ubiquitous. That doesn't mean that you need to be a Pan-Africanist, but we need to understand the global nature of anti-Blackness when we are what engaging in these type of political conversations and seeking what tangible benefits from the electoral process in America. Number two, I would never tell anyone to disavow themselves of the what political process here in America, but I would tell someone to do what. One of the issues that we tend to find in African American political process is what we focus on symbolism rather than substance. Symbolism, the person looks like you, they can speak the vernacular, they got the swag, they just bought the latest pair of J's, right? They can tell you who their top 5 rappers are, but they don't deliver tangible social and economic benefits, what Shirley Chisholm called what bread and butter issues. I say Black power. And so I would argue to be keenly aware and vote based on the potential candidates' policies rather than the candidates' political party.
I agree with you there, and for me, I would argue back and say, actually, I'm not just around people who think and talk like me. They actually push back. I say, if you say, hey, I'm voting for the couch, right? Look at the policies, look at the data. I'll go and say it from this angle. Look at the data. Look at where we were 60 years ago, right? What policies have been implemented to move that forward, right? And first of all, go learn who you have locally and focus on getting done for those things. You're right. I would never say someone just sit home, but get familiar with the policy, your judges, all the people you elect there in your county, in your state, where you live. Know who they are, how they vote, how to move. Start there locally, because that's going to affect you there. But like you said, Lumumba, look at the policies. But if you have policy, but we get caught up in a black face in the place, right? And that just because you have someone in the room, the representation does not equal agency for the people on our side, right? So yeah, but no, I get what you're saying, Bawana. If I said that right, I'm sorry if I mispronounced it. But I agree. I get that a lot. Like, well, what I'm supposed to do, right? So we get to vote blue no matter who. But we've been doing that for the better part of 50, 60 years, and nothing's changed. So that's how I get it back. I say, so you've been going that way. So what you gonna get for it? If you're not demanding it, saying, oh, that'll never happen. That's the first thing they say. Well, that'll never happen. Well, if that's the only solution, then what's the point anyway? Right? What are we talking about here? That's usually where I end up taking it. It's like, well, if the conditions been the same, you've been voting blue no matter who, then what's the point? I mean, the more they change, the more they stay the same.
I think it's important to talk about policy. I think that how I see voting and how I see voters vote is on personality. And I think that if you try to direct people who listen to what you have to say, direct them not to the person, not to the personalities, but to the policies. What are these guys trying to actively implement within our community? And like you say, you start locally, because the presidency is that's a factor of times 10, times 100. When you have an all manner of different people come in to vote for whatever interest they may have, that's a whole other animal. But when you talk about local representation, things what is gonna affect you directly, then you push that policy argument. What is this person within my community trying to actively do? And then if you do know what the policies are, you could explain to whoever, all your friends and the people who you know, well, auntie or uncle or cousin, this guy is trying to do these things if he were to get into office, political office, whether if he's trying to become a sheriff of my local community or a judge. So I think that that is a very important tack to take in looking at local politics first, and national politics being something a little bit different. So I think that that's very important to do.
Yeah, and I got to run here soon, but what I've been finding out is I've been listening to that Black Power media, but what you get is a lot of centrists. So you may get certain rap artists who sound revolutionary, like a Greenwood Bank or something like that, and really what it is not. It sounds that way, but it's really more of a centrist move, and that is the system working at its best. But yeah, I totally agree. It's we got a hard fight to do, but shouts out to you, Lamoon. But thanks for inviting me in. Because I gotta you'll sub. I'm gonna be continue listening, but I'll come out of the a live chat. But you definitely want to keep doing what you're doing, having a conversations, have it going, and and because that you've educated me and inspired me, and so want to keep it going and continue to support you.
Appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe, brother.
Oh, I'm subscribed, so I'm
Very
gonna
good.
make sure I support you in a way it counts. So I got you. Hit you up on the Cash App.
I appreciate it. No problem. Thank you very much. And like I said, you're welcome anytime. Like as I stated on my channel, diversity of thought is welcome. I don't believe that we grow if we have an echo chamber of thought, right? So the pushback is good. And when you see how we're engaging in the pushback, we're actually having an actual critical dialogue rather than attacking a person, right? So we don't do ad hominems here. There are some people with some channels that allow those type of things to take place. I don't allow that on my channel because I believe this is a space for true Black empowerment. And the 3 N's of Black power are what? Self-respect, self-defense, and then of course self-determination.
Thank you. Well said. And yeah, I totally agree. But I appreciate you pushing back, because that's exactly what we need. Because that's exactly what's going to happen. Even though the message is on point, that's exactly what's going to happen. You're
Right.
going to get your pundits and talking points. What about Chicago? What about black on black crime? What about single welfare mothers? All of the rhetoric and lies that they've been pushing. And it works, obviously, because a lot of
So
people.
yeah, what about Chicago?
Yep.
Yeah. So, but your brothers live in the United States, and you have to prepare, and we have to have discussions. The people who supposed to think a little bit more have to have discussions among ourselves. So when we actually do get on the street, dub 3000, you know how to maneuver because you've done it already. So we have to talk and prepare sometimes, right? I think it's an important thing to do. And since the thinkers are in the room, the thinkers need to think and strategize.
Absolutely. Absolutely, because like you said, Brother Bawana, if you disagree, you won't be prepared for the pushback. It's almost like preparing for a boxing match and you don't engage in sparring. And when you get hit, you don't know how to respond. So I'm with you 100% there.
Oh, definitely. That's why I would encourage even the extremists. I would encourage brothers them who are card carrying Trump fans and Trump members, because you get them too. They are on the extreme end, but these people exist. So you have to deal with people. You have to deal with people within our community where they are.
Right. Absolutely. I'm with you 100%. So, Mr. Sandman about to tap in. What's going on, brother? What's the word?
Hey, what's going on? How you doing?
Doing quite all right. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing fine. Just got finished taking care of a little business, and I figured I'd check in. Yeah, about that Mississippi issue. I'm not a racist or anything like that, but we got to keep in mind that there's a certain thing called like a poor white trash in this country, and there was derelicts in Europe that migrated or immigrated to the United States who were like the peasants of Europe. And a lot of them came over here and got a foothold in American culture, and they brought their derelict culture, their degenerate culture over here. So it doesn't surprise me that you have instances where you get poor white trash in Mississippi, like terrorizing African Americans in Mississippi. So there's a certain thing. It's like it's the niggas of the white people, so to speak. You know.
Real quick, real quick, brother. We don't use racial epithets on the channel.
Oh yeah, my bad. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's the degenerates of the white folks. So that's not necessarily a surprise to me that, you know what I mean, they would, you know, terrorize black people like that because, you know, some of them are just, you know, low lifes in general. As for the system of systematic racism, you know, that's a different thing. I don't necessarily know if everyone is susceptible to it. I believe that, you know, us as human beings, when we live in a society, we're like we're a product of our environment. So if our environment, you know, states that, you know, white people are on the top and or the first class citizens and colored people are the second class citizens, then everyone kind of like, you know, follows suit. You know, it's like kind of a monkey see, monkey do type of deal. And I think that we're all susceptible to it. It was a long time ago. I took a class of psychology, a college course of psychology, and I learned a lot about what do they call it? They call it the subconscious learning, where we got positive and negative reinforcements. So they had this one. They did this one test where, you know, they'll take like human beings and stuff and put them in a room and tell them that, you know, this person that you're torturing, every time you push this button, you know, you're gonna give this person an electrical charge. And
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I took a class in psychology and learned the same study. Go right ahead, brother. I know what you're talking about.
The Milgram experiment.
The Stanford Chad. It was at Stanford, right?
The Milgram experiments.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So what happens is, you know, here in this culture that we live in, you'll see that black people, because we're considered a second class citizen in this culture, that will kind of like um, um, fall right into whatever the system or the society states that we're supposed to be in, just because subconsciously that's where our brain puts us at. It's like positive and negative reinforcement. We're mentally or subconsciously being trained to think a certain way, and it's hard to like break out of that subconscious thought process, that subconscious manipulation from society, which is why it's so important to have like a strong family life. And I believe that Africans, particularly over in the continent, because they see other black people as being the first class citizens in their culture, they don't see themselves as a second class citizen. They don't see themselves as a second class or a less than people than the people around them, because subconsciously they weren't trained to be second class citizens, so that when they come over here to the United States, even if they don't come from the wealthiest background, they're not like they haven't been psychologically manipulated in the system, you know. So that's why I think it's so important, you know, for us to learn about ourselves as African Americans, so that we can uh, break that subconscious chains that we've been under for the past 200 or 300 years, so that we can have pride and pride in who we are as human beings. So I'm always trying to make myself a better person, which is why I like to listen to people that's smarter than me in particular subjects. And you know, I would say over the past 5 years, I've tried to become more conscious, because I felt that was a weakness of mine. You know, sometimes I felt that maybe I was falling within the stereotypes, or trying to fit in into society, and deep down I knew deep down inside that wasn't really who I was. So I said, you know, um, let me start surrounding myself, or surrounding myself with more conscious or black conscious people, so that I can have an understanding of exactly who I am and who my people are. You
So
know, because
can I interject very quickly, brother?
yeah, sure.
So I think this is important that I say this, and the fact that I'm about to cam up when I say it, because I think you need to hear this. The fact that you had the wherewithal, that you had the knowledge, you realize these things, and then you're able to have the self-determination and say, let me go do something about it. That is truly revolutionary. Would you agree, Brother Bawana?
Absolutely. He is ahead of many people. He is becoming a part of the 1%. I
Yeah.
say bravo to him.
Yes, to say, you know what? I acknowledge I am not where I should be, not where I need to be. In fact, I apologize for interjecting, but I'm gonna share a very quick anecdote of my personal life. So we're going back about 14, 13 years, and I think I shared with you all that I had got into a fight when I was playing football 14 years ago, beat the guy up. I was arrested, spent about a month and a half in jail, got out. Thank you, Brother Dub, for the cash app. I greatly appreciate that, brother. And what ended up taking place was I kind of, end of my relationship had ended with my daughter's mom. So, and now I'm by myself, and I began to question, you know, who I was. And you know, I remember one of the elders, one of the queen mothers, I remember, true story, no, don't you all laugh at me. So my son he's not now, but a huge Lion King fan. He would want to watch the Lion King every single day and act out every scene in the Lion King. Right, so I had to hide the DVD, right? Like, golly. But what ended up happening was there was a scene in the line. I was watching the movie by myself. There's a scene where, you know, Mufasa is, you know, he's an ancestor. He says, you have forgotten who you are, and therefore you have forgotten me. And I realized, like, damn, I kind of forgot who the hell I am and how I'm supposed to be moving, right, as an African man, because, you know, what I did, it messed with my psyche because it was against what I believed in, right? And so to have that wherewithal to say, hey, I'm not where I believe I should be, and then to have the initiative and the self-determination and the agency to say, and I'm going to take myself to this place through self-determination. No one's going to do this for me. I'm going to do it for myself. That, I mean, brother, you on some bookman, you on some book duty bookman type. You know what I mean? Like, seriously. So I just
Yes,
want to put that out there.
yeah. Thank you for that. You know, that acknowledgement. You know, yeah. Just what felt weird to me is I felt myself, you know, looking at other black people sometimes and wondering, damn, like, why when I get around black people, sometimes I feel like, you know, he's the enemy, when this guy is supposed to be my brother. And who in my mind, what in my mind made me think subconsciously that another black man is supposed to be my enemy, you know, when
Right.
he's the same person as I am. You know, it's almost as if society was turning me into a white person, so to speak, you know, in black skin, where I was almost looking down at other black people like something was wrong with them. And it was almost like a self-hatred, you know, like why would I look at another black man as an enemy when he's just, you know, he's just one of us, and he's going through the same stuff as we've going through, you know? So, you know, I think that we just had to have like a certain amount of love and understanding for each other as black people, and we got to learn how to work together and start building a productive society for ourselves here in the United States and abroad, you know. And one of the best ways to build a productive society is economics, you know. And the world is changing, you know, is becoming more digitized, you know what I'm saying? It's more futuristic. So, you know, the world is changing and all. But, you know, it's nothing like, you know, a black barbershop in a black community, you know what I'm saying? or black soul food place in the black community where black people will come together and I provide my service to another black person and we can chop it up, chill, and for my service they'll reimburse me with some dividends or some money, and that's the way that connections are made through building a productive society where men can go out, do for the next man. You know what I'm saying? If I specialize as being an electrician, then I can work on your house. If you specialize in being a barber, then you can, cut my hair, or do my family's hair. Or if you specialize in history or something like that, that you could provide, education or African American or African diaspora education to our children, so they become, they stay proud of who they are as black people. We're all important in this one huge cog where we all could come together and provide our inputs to society, and we can all depend on each other, But if we all just look at each other as enemies, or we don't look to work with each other, or we don't support each other, or we look down on each other, we're never going to be able to come together and make a strong society for each other. So all of us are important, from the smallest person who if he's works in our society and he cuts our lawn for us. He's just as important as the physicists, as the black scientists in our community who might produce the cure for cancer, diabetes, or heart disease for the black people in our community. Everybody's important. Everybody provides something, and if we can all work together, you know what I'm saying, and provide for each other, then things would be stabilized that way. But we have to be productive,
Absolutely. I actually like the fact that go ahead, brother Bawana.
No, I just wanted to add to his build when he was suggesting of poor white culture, poor white trash coming to the United States. I just wanted to add to that because in terms of what these guys would have done, because I'm thinking to myself, well, rich white culture is just as bad, because Thomas Jefferson them, they was rich, you know what I mean? But they had a culture that was very destructive to the Western Hemisphere, So
Absolutely.
that yeah, so there's it's a little bit of a difference. The poor white trash is gonna torture these guys and sexually abuse these guys. The rich white culture is gonna sentence these guys who did these kinds of crimes to 10 years. So it's the same ridiculous degenerative culture. So I understand where he's coming with that, but be careful because the man who wears the suit and the tie is just as dangerous as the poor man on the street who's going to engage in a harmful behavior. They are not exclusive of one another. They work together.
Right.
It's just that one is wealthy and one is poor. So I think that we need to just to bring to the awareness of our people that one is not exclusive of the other. They work together to make the system work well.
Well, and I'm glad you said that, brother Bawana, because a good example of you talking about wealthy white culture is that Thomas Jefferson was vehemently opposed to recognizing the independence of Haiti, right? And the American government, up until I think the late 1800s, refused to recognize the sovereignty of Haiti. And we know our brothers and sisters in Haiti are going through something right now. We want to send our positive energy and vibes to them, but just to be cognizant of, a white supremacist is a white supremacist, irrespective of the economic class. A person who's anti-black is anti-black, irrespective of their race or economic class. And so I think that's just something that we need to be cognizant of. But once again, family, if you're watching, make sure you hit subscribe. Make sure you hit the thumbs up and the notification bell. You're watching a dual stream between Bequalon Network and Lumumba Speaks, where we believe we could gain a competitive advantage by always betting on black. Mr. Sandman, the title of today's show, and you are aware of this, is Why the Mississippi Goon Squad Sentencing is Not Justice. I'm quite sure you heard what I had to say regarding why I believe that that wasn't justice, but I have a more of a revolutionary, liberatory type lens of what justice is for African people. What are your thoughts on what would justice look like for Black people when it comes to the Mississippi Goon Squad?
I would have to look up the definition of justice. And last
Okay.
time I looked up the definition of justice, it would be what would be considered fair and just and moral. So I guess that's up for interpretation. You know, one could argue that what what would be fair is an eye for an eye. So whatever they did to those Black folks in Mississippi, the same thing should be done to them in jail. You know, they should be molested, attacked, and raped. You know, that's justice. You know, or maybe they should have their, you know, that would be fair, right? That would be an eye for an eye. So, yeah, I guess it depends, you know, on what a person might be consider what is fair. You know, I guess it's subjective. Whatever a person might believe it would be fair. So, as a society, I think that the probably the most just thing to do would be to have like Black people decide his fate, those people's fate, as opposed to white people. You know, so I would say like a Black judge, a Black jury would have to be the ones that decide what should happen to them. That would be the fairest thing to do. But it would have to be like, you know, a respected and a fair and responsible judge and jury. And
A real Black jury, not these we gonna forgive everybody juries. We gonna pray. Yeah, a real Black jury.
right, yeah, because I don't
Well,
see how a white man could be a judge, you know, of a crime like that when, you know, they have a history of terrorizing Black people, particularly in the state of Mississippi, when, you know, it should be the representatives, the Black representatives of the people of Mississippi that know the history of Mississippi that could really be more in touch with what should be administered to those white men. Yeah.
well, I mean, but you know, that's going to be based on whoever is the judge that was elected or put in that seat. I don't think that's something that you could mandate based on race.
Yeah, that's the thing about being here in the United States. You know, legally it says that, you know, you can uh, what do you say? You can be prejudiced or pick, you know, legal terms based on someone's person, race, color, or creed. So, you know, I understand that. You know, legally, you know, they can't just pick a judge and jury based on someone's race. You know, so I understand that's against the Constitution. However, if we're just talking about what's just, then that would probably be the most just thing to have Black people decide the fate of those racist white folks in Mississippi.
Understood. I do understand that. Yes, sir. Okay.
Yeah.
Not bad at all. Not bad at all. Any final thoughts before we close out?
Final thoughts. This has been a very good discussion. You know, Brother Lumumba, again, you know, you find these topics, brother. You find these emotive topics to talk about, but I think that they are very important in terms of the listeners because they could learn from it these things and grow from it and have takeaways of how we need to respond as a community in dealing with the various issues and matters that we come up against, you know, almost on a weekly basis now. So I think that it's a very important discussion to have, and for you to help these kinds of discussions because you keeping the audience honest. You're not gonna let us fly up for the handle and come up with views that's not factual, and you keep the audience honest and ensuring that we are factual in our statements. We need to, if you make statements, you got to back it up when you're on this kind of platform. So I think that's very important to do. But I thank you for the time, Brother Lumumba. Once again, this has been a very good discussion. And Mr. Sandman, I congratulate you, brother, for being a part of the 10% of the thinkers and within our community. And I would just challenge you to try to bring on some other brothers so they could hear this kind of good information and spread the message. But I'll leave it there, Brother Lumumba. Thank you for entertaining me. I'm out.
No doubt. All right.
Yeah,
Well, yeah.
yeah,
Mr. Sandman, go right ahead.
yeah. And then closing, yeah, I would just say that I just would like to thank you for bringing your content to YouTube and social media, so that we can learn from your plethora of knowledge of African American and African world history. Because this is a college level education that we get to get for free. So
Okay, I appreciate that.
yeah, normally if I had to go to a college, I would probably have to pay like maybe a couple $1,000s for this course. So yeah, I appreciate you for allowing, for teaching us and allowing us to give our points or our ideas on the subjects that you cover, so that we can have a
Absolutely.
deeper understanding of the African American or African diaspora consciousness.
Absolutely. The thing is, you are entitled to your opinion. But as Brother Bawana said, if you say something that's nonsensical, like I was on another platform and a brother said that there were 300,000 immigrants coming into America each week. So I said, well, hold on. I mean, we got to fact check that. Where are you getting those numbers? And of course, he engaged in an ad hominem, and he started to attack me personally. And I said, listen, but I just asked a simple question. Of course, it turned out that it wasn't even 300,000 a week. It was only 249,000 a month. So I said, you were off by about 1 million, right? And so we want to make sure that we're fact-based, not engaging in hyperbole, because that not only does it hurt one's credibility, but it doesn't help our people learn and grow, right? And that's what we're truly here for. Because once you emancipate the mind, revolution begins there.
Yeah, I actually was listening to that live, and I think it was Hustle Smart who said that. And I've heard him actually say that in the past. He'll throw out numbers and stuff like that, but normally I wouldn't take anything that's said on YouTube, particularly when it comes to like big numbers like that, without looking it up myself to verify whether or not it's true. I would just take it with a grain of salt normally, but I do, because I know that when people are on YouTube, they're trying to express themselves, so or say something that's a hot topic that'll get the audience's attention. So you
Right.
just allow them to do their thing,
Right.
Is what I normally do. You know what I'm saying? But hopefully, no one wouldn't take anything that anyone says on YouTube as 100% fact without doing their own research to make sure that's 100% fact before they act on it.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, all right, brother. I appreciate you. Until next, and make sure you tap in tomorrow. I'm gonna be doing a show on Candace Owens' Breakfast Club interview. Until next time, y'all know what to do. Peace.
Peace.